Hey everyone, Kelly Dean Allen here with you again. Today we're going to learn how to play It's So Easy by Guns N' Roses. Track 2 from the band's 1987 breakout album, Appetite for Destruction. So then, from July 1987, when the album was released, to July 1988, a year later, Appetite for Destruction sold approximately 200,000 copies. Respectable, but nothing particularly earth-shattering. Now, myself and some of my friends were a part of that 200,000. We were on this album pretty early on and knew that it was something special. You see, while it didn't sound a whole lot different from a lot of the other hard rock music being pumped out of the LA scene at the time, what truly set this album apart was that there was practically no filler on it. It was simply banger after banger after banger after banger from start to finish. It was pretty much inevitable that this album would eventually explode in popularity worldwide, which of course it did. In the end, I think it did over 30 million copies sold. Now that is earth-shattering. Enough said. Let's close in here a little bit. Have a look at how to play one of those bangers from Appetite for Destruction, and It's So Easy. Solos and all. Alright then, let's have a look at how to play It's So Easy by Guns N' Roses from Appetite for Destruction. We are tuned down 1/2 step for this tutorial, and here's your tuning. Now, the intro to this one starts with bass. That right there, right? When the guitars kick in, they kick in with a whole bunch of E power chords. Kind of like that, right? So we're starting with an E power chord at the neck position for 2 bars. We're bouncing between a palm muted open E string and this E power chord just on the A and D string on the upstroke. Like 8 times, or 2 bars, right? Then we're going to move it up to the 7th fret position, do the exact same thing, 3-finger power chord. But we're going to do it in this position for 4 bars. Right? Pretty easy stuff. Now, over top of that, when we move up to the E power chord at the 7th fret position, Slash starts playing some harmonics. Kind of like that, right? 2 middle strings on the 12s, 3 times, 1 more time, then down to the 12 of the B, and then back to the 12s of the 2 middle strings, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, right? Those are your 4 bars that were in the E at the 7th fret position. Then we drop into the main riff. Four times. B flat power chord, 6th fret position. We're going to hit it twice, move it off to G, hit that twice, and then off to E. And when you go off to E, I'm kind of holding an E major chord, but I'm not touching upon the G string. I'm going from the bottom 2 strings, down to the top 2 strings on the upstroke twice. Kind of like that. Palm muted on the bottom 2 strings, right? And repeat. B flat, G, G, E. B flat, G, G, E. 4 times. Right, now this song has no pre-chorus, drops right into the chorus. That right there, which we're going to repeat 4 times. Lots of groups of 4 going on here. A power chord, we're going to hit this twice. A lot of sliding around of these power chords very quickly. We're going to go off to G, back to A, back into B flat, back to A, back to G, and then we're going to drop into E at the 7th fret position. I like to catch all of these power chords on the downstroke. Except when I move into E at the 7th fret position, right? And repeat that 4 times. But it's much quicker. Right? And over top of that, I think Izzy plays this. That right there, little double stops on the top 2 strings, on the 5s, off to the 3s, back onto the 5s, hammer onto 6, back to 5, back to 3, off to open. And then drop into that again, right? Just a secondary guitar adding accent to this, right? Right, and coming out of the chorus, we drop right back into another verse. Same as the first. Just that B flat to G to E. Into another chorus. Repeated 4 times. And then we drop into the quiet little bit in the middle. Which we're going to repeat twice. So second fret of the low E, open A, open D. You're going to go E, A, D twice, and then E, D. Kill that volume a little bit. Right? And then we're going to drop into G, third fret of the low E, second of the A, open D, same thing. Same picking pattern. And then we're going to, while we have our index planted on that 2, we're going to drop our pinky on the 4 of the D with open G. Same picking pattern, right? A, D, G, A, D, G, A, G. And then off to open A, 2 of the D, open G. Same picking pattern, and repeat. And you repeat that twice, raise your volume, and then we're into this. That right there. So we're kind of just chugging along on a palm muted open E string, doing hammer-ons from 5 to 7 of the A. So you're kind of repeating the same pattern twice, like 4 chugs on that palm muted open E, down, up, and then a hammer-on from 5 to 7, and repeat. And then after the second time you hammer 5 onto 7, you're going to do another quick one. After a quick little down up of the palm muted open E. Kind of like that, and repeat 4 times, or 3.5 times. And then the final time you just just come off that low E right onto that 7 and let it ring. Right? That's that little section. And then we drop into this. Which we're going to repeat twice. So we're dropping off to D. Going to hit that like 3 or 4 times. Move it up to G, off to F sharp, back to E. Just slide those power chords back, right? And then you kind of hang in that E for half a bar. Right? Repeat. But the second time you're going to play the same chords, G off to F sharp off to E, but now at the neck position, right? And repeat. Right, and that drops into the guitar solo. So let's get a little more gain for this guitar solo. This is the first main solo. That's the first solo. So we're soloing in E using the E blues scale, but we're also adding that note on the 14 of the B string. Bit of a Dorian flavor to it. So we're starting on 17 of the B, step and a half bend. Release it, back to the natural note, and then another step and a half bend that you're going to slide out of. Kind of like that, right? Into this. So we're on 15 of the B string, nice slow full step bend. Then 12 of the high E, 15 off to 12 of the B. Right on to 14 of the G for a full step bend. And you're going to bend release that off to 12. Hammer back onto 14 down to 12 of the B, roll it back up to 12 of the G. And then finish that little lick with a double hit on the 14 of the D string. Right? Into this. Right there. So we're going 14, 12, 14 of the G, coming off the D string. Then we're going to go 12, 14, 15 of the G 3 times. Kind of like that, right? And then after you repeat that 3 times, we're going to take that 15 off to 14, down to 12 of the B, roll it up to 12 of the G. And then back onto that 14 of the D, and then down to 15 of the B. Right? And then we're going to back that 15 off to 14 and do 3 little half step bend releases. And then after you do those little half step bends 3 times, release it off to 12 of the G, up to 14 of the D, on to 15 for a full step bend to finish the solo. So that is the main solo. Right, lots of vibrato on that, and then we drop right into another verse. 4 times. Chorus. Right back into the quiet section again. Twice. Now we're going to repeat this 2 more times, but now we're going to play power chords. F sharp, into G, down to B, off to A, and one more time. And then we're into the outro solo. So I'm going to show you how to play the outro solo here. Just a whole lot of kind of outro solo-y type licks. But that is the outro solo right there. So we're starting with a little rake into the 15 of the high E off to 12. Kind of like that, right? Then we're going to drop onto a double stop on the 14s G and B and give it a bend and just leave it up there, right? Into this lick. So 2 of the G, then high E, 3 off to open of the B, right back to that bend on the 2, bend release off to open and finish with a double hit on the 2 of the D. Then you're going to take that 2, move it up to 5 and give it a full step bend and choke it off. Right, and then we're going to drop onto the 5 of the low E, nice slow bend. Release it off to 2 and pull it off to open. he actually gets a bit of a pinch harmonic on that G note there at the 3rd fret. And then he pulls it off to open into this. So 5 onto 7 of the A, open E palm muted, down to the 5 of the D, and then a double hit on the 7 of the A. Into this. So he's going to take that 7 of the A, roll it up to the 7 of the low E, and then back again. And then back to the low E. And then 5 on the 7 again, right? So coming off those bends. So 5 on the 7. Right? That lick right there. Into this. So we're on the 7 of the D. We're going to hammer onto 8, back to 7, and then off to 5. And then back to the 7, pull it off to 5 of the D, and finish on the 7 of the A. Kind of like that. And then you're immediately going to slide into 9 of the D down to 7 of the G twice. And then on to 9 of the G. And when you drop onto that 9 of the G, you're going to roll it up to the 9 of the D. And then 7 onto 9 of the G again, right? Kind of like that. Right? That's about the first half of the outro solo. So from the beginning. Big bending double stop. Right, now we're into this. So we're grabbing a double stop on the 12s, G and B, a little downwards tug, grab the 14 of the D, right back to the 12 of the G, and then we're into this little repeating lick. So bending that 14 of the G, and then 12 of the B, and then doing little pull-offs from 15 to 12. You kind of repeat that twice, so kind of like this. The final one, the third one, you're just pulling 15 off 12 right back onto 15. So that's that lick. It starts with that little bending double stop on the 12s, right? Into this. So 12 of the high E, onto 15 of the B, kind of rake into that 12. Then you're going to go 14, hammer onto 15, back to 14, back to 12 of the B. And then after you come off that 12, right there, you're going to go back onto 14, pull it off to 12. And then you're going to pick these next two notes, 14 off to 12 of the G. Right, and at this point we're going to drop onto another bending double stop here. And finish with that, just on the 14s, G and B. You're going to give that a double bend, right? Release it off to a double stop on the 12s, and then 14, 12. Finish on the 14 of the D. So kind of like this. Right? And we finish the outro solo with this. Just a little scale run starting on the 15 of the B, off to 14, off to 12. And we're going to finish the first half of it on the 14 of the D. And then we're going to go back to the 12 of the G to finish it. Just going right up the pentatonic, basically, but adding that 14 there of the B, right? And that finishes the outro solo right there on the 10 of the A. And then he does a big slide up and down the neck. So the outro solo from the beginning. is the outro solo. Drops right into this to finish the track. Which we're going to repeat 4 times. Sliding 2 to 3 of the G, back to 2 off to open, grab the 2 of the D, up to 1 of the A off to open, grab the 3 of the low E, and then back into that again. Right, just playing along with the melody, right? Right at the end, you just hit that E power chord, choke it off, end of track. And there you go. That is how you play It's So Easy by Guns N' Roses. Certainly hope you enjoyed that, found it helpful. If you did, please hit that like button right down there. Drop me a subscribe if you haven't done that already, as that would be very kind. Hope you're well out there in your little guitar corner of the world, wherever that may find you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.